Good morning. Happy Monday. It is time for just a word from the Word. Our passage this morning comes from the book of Isaiah, chapter 26, verses 3 and 4, and I'm reading from the English Standard Version. And it says, "You keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you." Now, I've used verse 3 before, but verse 4 grabbed my attention this morning. Trust in the Lord forever. For the Lord God is an everlasting rock. The prophet says that we will have perfect peace when we keep our mind on the Lord, when we trust in Him. And that is true. And like I said, I know that I've used that passage before in our morning devotions. But verse 4 gives us why we can trust in the Lord. And I can and I have told you plenty of times, and I've told myself plenty of times to simply trust in the Lord because He's trustworthy. And I've said that because He's trustworthy. Sometimes we need to step back and realize who we're trusting in. The prophet says that we can trust in the Lord from here on out because He is an everlasting rock. I remember as a little girl, we used to go down, as Dad would say, to the old home place down in Burkesville, Tennessee. Kentucky, not Tennessee, sorry, Burkesville, Kentucky. I had Tennessee on the brain because it's only 5 miles north of the Tennessee border. But while we were visiting family at the old home place in Burkesville, Tennessee, there was always a trip to Dale Hollow Lake. Now, some of you may know Dale Hollow Lake as a good place to fish, as a good place to vacation. But let me tell you, when I was a little girl, it was not that place. It was nasty. It was dirty. It was gross. It was, maybe in some people's words, skanky. When I was a little girl, Dale Hollow Lake was not the place to go and camp out. It was overgrown. The lake was just, it was gross. I mean, you put your foot in the lake and you felt like you had to get a bath because it was just so dirty. And I realize that that's not the case today, and I'm thankful for that. But as a little girl, I would, because I still thought that it was fun, I would take my shoes off and I would stick my feet in Dale Hollow Lake. And just at the edge, I just was never brave enough to actually get into the lake itself. I'd step my feet in there and I'd have fun. I thought it was funny and cool because the little bitty minnows would come up and they would try to bite at my toes, and that was fun and it tickled, and it was a good time. But what was interesting was that when I put my foot in the water, the sand would move. It would move to wherever I would step my feet. Now, there was some solid ground apparently somewhere underneath that because I didn't sink. I'm still here. But the surface level of that sand, it would move, it would shift based on where I walked. And so, I just couldn't get solid footing. There are places in our life that's like that. that wherever we walk, it feels like the sands are shifting underneath us and we just can't quite get control. We can't get some solid footing. It just feels like if we're not careful, we're gonna sink. We're gonna slip. We're gonna fall because the footing and the circumstances around us just seems so shifting, so unstable. But when we talk about God being an everlasting rock, we're not talking about sand underneath our feet when we're walking near a body of water. The sand that shifts and moves and or the slippery ground that we may encounter. When we're talking about God being an everlasting rock, we are saying that nothing is going to move him as far as his word is true. His love for us does not change. His word is forever settled in heaven. He is a sure foundation. It's not going to change. We change, we move, we shift, we vacillate back and forth between whether we trust him or not. But that's on us. It's not about how solid and sure and trustworthy that Jesus is. But the prophet tells us that we'll have perfect peace when we trust in that everlasting rock. So this morning's just a word from the word. I know I'm lengthy today, but I feel like we need to shift our gaze from the shifting sands around us to the circumstances around us that seem so shaky and seem so unsure, and shift our gaze to looking at Jesus, the God of the universe, the King that never changes, who is always faithful, who is always a sure foundation. Trust in that everlasting rock. And when we put our faith and our trust in Jesus, knowing that he's not going to leave us, and that whatever the shifting sands, the unsure, oh Jesus, whatever the unsure situations are that are around us, he's got us. He's a sure foundation, and he loves us, and we can trust him. Somebody needed to hear this today. You've been looking at circumstances, and you're just convinced that they're so shaky and that you cannot get solid footing. Turn your eyes to Jesus. He's your solid rock. He's your sure foundation. Get your peace in him. This has been just a word from the word. God bless you. Have a beautiful day. And Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow morning.